ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are there in the 14th chapter, sloka number 22 to 25. So this is the very important chapter on the three modes of nature. And Krishna also explains that this knowledge, what he is giving here, is much, much better than the knowledges that he has given before. So it's very, very important chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prakasham cha pravritim cha moham eva cha pandava nadveshti sampravrittani nanavrittani kankshati udasina vadasino gunaryo na vichalyate gunavardhanta iti yovatishthati ningata samadukka sukasvasta samalostra sma kanchana tulya priya priyo dhiras tulya nindatma samstutihi manopamanayostulya tulyo mitrari pakshayo sarvaramba parityagi gunathita sauchyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regard alike happiness and distress, and who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards desirable and undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in price and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. This is basically the liberated position. So the goal that all of us have is to reach to that this kind of a position wherein we are completely beyond all these things. As I always have been mentioning, just like when a child is playing with a toy, so we are not so much attached to that toy. At the same time, we are not averse to that toy. So like we don't say that, like we don't go and fight with the child to take the toy, or we don't throw the toy off saying that I cannot stand this toy being there. So both the things we don't do. So we are kind of okay, that toy being there and it being used by the children. So in the same way, we will develop that kind of an attitude towards all the aspects, in the whole creation: happiness, distress, success, failure, or gold, or a piece of stone, or whatever it is. So we will go beyond. All these things will become like a children's playthings. No, that is what is the state of liberation. That's what a person will experience in the state of liberation. So now we see that these are all various things, like it is very, very purifying to discuss about them. And it is one aspect that we had seen in mode of goodness. The problem in the mode of goodness is it conditions a person to happiness and then satisfaction, and it kills the person's desire to progress further, right? So when we discuss all these high elevated goals, So whatever stage we may acquire or whatever stage we may achieve in the progress of Krishna consciousness, we know that, okay, I cannot be just satisfied and sit down here. I have to reach this position. It's quite far and it's quite a lot to be done. So I cannot be satisfied with a small time advancement in no devotional service. I have to really work hard to go further and like achieve the great goals, right? So in that way, these discussions help a lot. These discussions always help in setting our goal, saying that, okay, I have to reach this really, really very advanced and very tall goals these are. So by discussing them, so we will start getting that kind of confidence ki, yeah, no, I have to do it, I have to do it, I have to get to the stage, right? So let's have this, let's read about the purport. About Prabhupada will be explaining about various of these things. So let's try to read them. Purport. Arjuna submitted three different questions, and the Lord answered them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendently situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world, embodied by material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the three modes of material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of material modes of nature. So this out of the body means not just death. No, it is death means still we are not out of the body, because the subtle body is still covering mind, intelligence, and false ego. When we break that body also, then only we are completely out of the body. The soul is completely liberated. So in the material world, when death happens, only the gross body we leave, and subtle body still is there with us, and that means there is no liberation, right? So we will be carried to another gross body. That's how much it will happen. So here when we say like we are out of the body, we are out of both gross body and subtle body. That is when we will be free from modes of material nature. Okay. So when he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of material body, he should be neutral. So that means this material body, it's going to function. This material body is a machine operated by three modes of nature, and it is going to function exactly according to the three modes of nature. And that's why Krishna is mentioning, till the time we are there in this body, we have to be neutral. And once we get out of this body, anyway, we will not have anything to do with the three modes of nature, right? So in this way, like no like a person in the path of progress towards liberation, he should learn to become neutral. So that's the goal that we need to achieve. Okay. He should engage himself in devotional service of the Lord, so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. So this is also a very important thing. So when we see that in the jnanis and yogis and all these people, so they also have the same goal of getting out of material three modes of nature. And what do they advise? They advise mauna, they advise some kind of inactivity and things like that. So, but we have a positive alternative. We have devotional service. So hearing about Lord, it is not part of three modes of nature. So we are neutral in three modes of nature. So when we are attending this reading session, so we are completely neutral in three modes of nature. And then when we are reading the books or doing arati or remembering the Lord, if we are taking darshan very nicely, then when we close our eyes and we can actually see the form of the Lord. So in that way, so meditating, Vishnu Smarana. So like this, these activities are beyond the modes of nature, right? And then so in that way we can become neutral in the material in terms of the material body and material nature. So we have to become nicely dipped in devotional service to be beyond the three modes of nature. Okay, when one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of modes of material nature. So the next question concerns the dealings of a transcendently situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body, but the transcendently situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. As I mentioned, so every time when we discuss this, the natural question that comes, like devotees put, is that, oh Prabhu, how can we do this thing? It's very, very exalted. Yeah, it is very exalted, and this is our goal. If our goal is not very exalted, then what are we trying to achieve in the life, right? So the goal must be really, really great. So this is the goal that we have. No, we should not be affected by any honor and dishonor and things like that, or many other things which were mentioned in the translation, right? So he performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in execution of Krishna consciousness, and he does not hate his so called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of a temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna. But for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendently situated. Right? So we have to come to this platform of trying to please the Supreme Lord in every sense, and then trying to be neutral in terms of the material aspects. That's a very, very important thing. So, and as we do this thing, that much we will progress. So more we are not able to put down the material activities, then we are exposed to the three modes of nature. And when we are exposed to the three modes of nature, our birth and death and perpetual continuation of birth and death is guaranteed. And we have to be out of three modes of nature. So first is that we have to make sure our schedule is in such a way, and all our activities are in such a way that we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So when we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, so then it becomes beyond the modes of nature. And that is not just sufficient. We also have to pray intensely that we may advance in Krishna consciousness. Just getting out of three modes of nature is not sufficient. That even a jnani and yogi is able to do. So, but we want to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. For that we need to have intense prayers. Know that may I attain the lotus feet of the Lord. May I be able to fully be absorbed in the devotional service, and may I get that intense, devotion to Krishna. That's we are not going to get just by a mechanical adjustment of our schedule and not doing anything, not contributing anything to the three modes of nature. So like we can only come to the platform of just a liberation. We will not be able to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. For that we need to have intense prayers, right? So like always we should pray that we become an intense and fully absorbed devotee, that we don't want anything else apart from the lotus feet of the Lord, and we demand it and we cry for it, right? So then only we will get it. So that's very, very important. Okay, text 26. Mam chayobhya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samiti tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So here, avyabhicharena is without fail, so or without any contamination also we can say. So mamcha, vyabhachari means like one who's not devoted to one husband. No, she's called a vyabhachari. So in the same way, like we have to become avyabhicharena yogena, means like we have to have single pointed focus of pleasing Krishna. No, he is our only master, and he is the only person whom we are trying to please, and that should be there. So Krishna is directly saying that mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So we have to serve the Lord with single pointed focus, as he is my only master, right? So then what happens? Sa gunan samiti thaitan. We will come above the modes of material nature. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. We will be there in the transcendental state of existence, right? So more we are on pointed focus on Krishna, and we are doing devotional service to Krishna to please him. So we are beyond the modes. And if we are not doing this avyabhicharena yogena, that means we have Krishna also, I have to please Krishna also, and I have so many other things also to do. So then, no, we are contributing something to the guna, no, three modes of nature. Then we cannot say samiti thyaitan. We cannot become completely free from the modes of nature. We will be in the modes of nature. Okay, like we will be pious person, no, we will be a very punya atma, but not somebody who will achieve the lotus feet of the Lord. That is not possible. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus come to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question: what is the means of attaining the transcendental position? So it's very, very clear. Like, more we get absorbed in the process of devotional service, and we have to, yeah, we have to manage our family. So we should understand how to manage the family in a Krishna conscious way. We have to do our work, how to do our work in a Krishna conscious way. We have to sleep, we have to do our Nitya Karma, how to do it in a Krishna conscious way. So everything should be for the pleasure of Krishna, right? So Krishna is giving, it's Krishna consciousness, not just chanting, not just reading. No, it's the way of life. No, the way how we deal with everything in this world, right? So there is a particular way a Krishna conscious person, deals with everything in the life. And that's where we need guidance. And when we take proper guidance, and then when we apply ourselves properly in Krishna consciousness, it's a science. And science means like every step matters. Everything that we do in the whole day matters, actually. So in that way, like if we mold our life according to the desire of Krishna, as he's expressing in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can be sure that we are transcending the modes of nature. And it is not something great that only great people can do. Anybody can do, right? So this has been shown, like Prahlad, no, he was in completely unfavorable circumstances, he could do. And then there are even ordinary devotees are mentioned, like how very, very simple people also like could able to do these things. So it is a very practical and very essential thing. All of us must try to do that 24 hours, nothing else apart from Krishna consciousness. And whatever is there, our daily duties, we should learn how to do it in Krishna's service. Is this going to please Krishna or not? That should be a constant question. That should be a constant contemplation. That should be there. In us. I'm doing this. Is this behavior right? Will it please Krishna? I'm doing this activity. Will this please Krishna? So in that way, like we should have that contemplation. And in the guidance, so when we take guidance from senior devotees, this is what we are going to check with. This throughout my life, I want to make sure that throughout the day, entire day, I don't want to do anything which displeases Krishna or which is not in line with Krishna consciousness. Okay. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's. Okay. So as explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. Rama Adimurtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan, right? So Nana Avataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. So one who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansion is considered to be transcendently situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of gold mine. Thus, the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. Right? So, in the spiritual world, everybody resembles the Supreme Lord, and everybody has a spiritual body. Of course, the Lord is Lord, but then No, we are of the same jati, we can say. No, sajati it becomes. So we will all be spiritual in nature. Okay, and the difference of individuality continues. Otherwise, there would be no question of bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Right. So bhakti yoga means the Lord is there, and the bhakta, the devotee is there, and then the bhakti, the exchange of love between the devotee and the Lord. So all these three things must be there. Mayavad means merge and become one. No, everything is one. So there is no question of any service there, right? So that's why the Mayavad is like it's completely against bhakti. It kills the roots of bhakti. So that's why the Mayavad is very, very dangerous. Okay, therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning of Bhakti Yoga. If one is situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position, like with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord, right? So Prabhupada is giving a nice example. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from all material contaminations. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmaivasa san Brahmapi eti. One can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with the Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as the individual soul. So Brahman means living entity, soul. There are many meanings that comes, but then here in this context, it means like we become a pure soul. The soul is always Brahman, but then we think that we are matter. So that's a problem. So when we don't think that we are matter, we think in terms of spirit soul, then we become equal in quality with Krishna, and then we can actually have relationship with Krishna, right? So it is otherwise it will become an inappropriate relationship, right? So if we want to have audience of Krishna and relate with Krishna, so we should also come to the platform of equality with Krishna. That is when we will be able to actually have some kind of a relationship with him, right? Otherwise it's not possible. Okay, text 27. Brahmano hi pratishtaham amritasya pavasya cha shasvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya ikhantikasya cha. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So, Brahman is the platform of happiness that people have, and whatever thing we think as happiness in this material world is all like it's actually a joke. So, real happiness is on the level of Brahman, right? So it is not like the real happiness doesn't lie in the material world. No, sukham atyantikam yat no buddhi grahyam atindriyam, right? So the real happiness is beyond the senses, beyond the modes of nature, and that is in the platform of Brahman. And here the Lord is telling Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So I am the basis of the supreme Brahman. So I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So it is not that like Brahman is supreme, and from there the Mayavadis say the Brahman is supreme, and from there comes the this one the Lord. Whenever incarnations happen, so the Brahman takes a form, and then he comes down and he gives some upadesh, and then he dissolves his form and again become one. So, but Lord is not saying like that. He's telling Brahmanohi Pratishta Aham. So I am the source of even the Brahman, right? So in that way, it's very clear the Supreme Lord's position, the Bhagavan aspect is more higher than the Brahman aspect, because Bhagavan establishes the Brahman. So I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of the ultimate happiness. So if some creation or some expansion of Krishna is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, then Krishna himself know what kind of this one we can say. He is the Murtiman Swarup of the ultimate happiness, right? So he is the source of all the happiness. So in this regard, we always used to discuss this particular shloka. That is, what is that? Sukha Rupa Sukhadaraha Sarkara Pindavan Matam Shri Krishna Charana Dvandvam Sukham Brahma Tu Kevalam. So that means We have sweet rice and we have sugar. Sugar is both the source of sweetness and form of sweetness, and sweet rice is just a form of sweetness. Why? Because we cannot add sweet rice and make another preparation sweet, because it is not the source of sweetness. So in the same way, Brahman, Sukham Brahma tu Kevalam, right? So Brahman is the no, is the state of happiness, but nobody can become happy by contemplating on Brahman, right? So a person has to contemplate on the Supreme Lord, the person who's the source of happiness. No, Brahman is just the form of happiness, and Krishna, the personal form of Krishna, is both the form of happiness and the source of happiness, right? So that is why no Sri Krishna Charanadvandam Sukham Brahma tu Kevalam. So like the source of happiness is the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, right? So here we see that Brahman is constitutional position of ultimate happiness. It is not mentioned that it is the source of happiness, but Krishna is called as the source of happiness, right? Okay, purport. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of the transcendental realization. Paramatma, the super soul, is the middle, the second stage in the transcendental realization, and the supreme personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of absolute truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the supreme person. It is explained in the 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with the fragments of a superior nature. That is, we are those fragments, who have been impregnated into the material nature. Right? And that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. When a living entity, conditioned by this material nature, begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self-realization. At this stage, the Brahman realized person is transcendental to material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually rise up to Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many examples in the Vedic literatures. The 4 Kumaras were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of the truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. And so the 4 Kumaras were like highly realized souls right from the birth, and they were on the state of Brahman. That means they are not attached to the 3 modes of nature. Practically 3 modes of nature cannot affect them. No, they were whatever we saw in the previous sloka, honor and dishonor doesn't affect them. Wealth and poverty doesn't affect them. No, anything of this world, any duality, it doesn't affect them, right? But they were situated on the Brahman plane, right? So they were completely satisfied deep from within, but then they were not devotees of the Lord. So, but first opportunity when they got to smell the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, so they became completely transformed. So they were surprised. In fact, nothing in the material world can possibly attract us, but this thing is attracting us. This tulsi leaves, the smell of these tulsi leaves are attracting us. What is it, which is there in this? What is this creation? This cannot be 3 modes of nature. This is something different. And they just went and they took the darshan of the Lord and they become devotees of the Lord, right? So in this way, in the Bhagavatam first canto, we might have studied, we have studied, this particular shloka. So that is Atmaramas Chamanayo Nirgante Api Urukrama Kurvanti Haitukim Bhaktim Iktam Bhuta Guno Harihi. Right? So this says that this devotional service or the Supreme Lord, he attracts everyone. Even including the Atmaramas. Atmaramas are those people who are on the Brahman platform or completely satisfied. They are not disturbed by anything material, but they can also be agitated by the presence of the Lord. They are not agitated by anything material, but they can also be agitated by the presence of the Lord. Just by this devotional elements, just like tulsi leaves and water that has washed the feet of the Lord, the form of the Lord, and things like that. So Atmaramas Chamanayo Nirgante Api Urukrama Kurvanti Ahaitukim Bhaktim Ittam Bhuta Guno Harihi. So like the devotional service to the Lord attracts even the liberated souls, right? So here we see that these 4 Kumaras were liberated souls situated on the platform of Brahman. but then they got attracted to the personal form of the Lord, and they very quickly come to the platform of bhakti. Right? So one who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down. Right? So impersonal Brahman attraction is not a safe place. No, a person can fall down from the impersonal Brahman. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further, with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. So in this regard, I always quote this particular shloka. So I request some devotees to post in the reading group. So that is, what is that? Enne Ravindraksha Vimukta Maninas Tvayasta Bhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya Aruhrakachena Param Padam Tata Patanti Ada Anadrita Ishma Dangaye. So it is like if a person is reached the stage of liberation in the Brahman stage, but then he is not taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, he can still fall from that stage to the material position. But one who has taken the shelter of the Lord, so he cannot fall. No, he is completely safely situated, right? So that is what is mentioned here. If we don't go beyond the Brahman realization or liberated position to the process of bhakti, no, actually bhakti is a very, very high thing, no, very exalted thing. And if somebody is stuck in this one of shanti and peace and things like that, so it's not very safe place. No, one has to get attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. It's a very, very important shloka, so devotees can try to memorize this shloka and meditate on the importance of getting attached to the lotus feet of the Lord. No, like patanti other, we will fall. No, when will we fall? No, anadrita yushmad angre. So angre means like the feet of the Lord, right? So if we don't take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, anadrita, right? I think that's the meaning of that word. So if we don't take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, no, in the process of bhakti, we will definitely fall. No, we are not in a safe position. Okay. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the platform, Brahman platform, there is chance of falling down if one is not engaged in devotional service of the Lord. In the Vedic language, it is also said, "Raso vaisaha rasam hi evayam labdvanandi bhavati." So when one understands the personality of God is the reservoir of pleasure, no, this raso vaisaha, saha means he. What? Who is he? Raso vaisaha. No, he is the what is the reservoir of all the pleasure, right? Rasovai saha, rasam hi evayam ladvanandi bhavati, right? So this, when one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. No, Taittiriya Upanishad. So the Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these six opulences. The servant of the king. Okay, so now we see that if we want to be attracted, whom do we get attracted to? Film stars. No, why do we get attracted to film stars? Because they have some, at least they show that, no, they have some power and beauty and things like that. So Krishna is like, no, nobody can excel Krishna's power and beauty, and we get attracted to knowledgeable people, and Krishna has given the greatest knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, and no, nobody can be a better knowledgeable person than him. So the strongest, the knowledgeable, and the most renounced people, even the renounced people attract, and Krishna is the most renounced person. He has everything in his control, everything is his creation. But then, no, if we living entities go and say, no, no, I want to enjoy your property, and Krishna says, okay, fine, you enjoy. So, and if you have any trouble, you come back, like, no, I'll accept you back. No, he's the most renounced person. So in this way, we can see that Krishna is all attractive because he has all six opulences. No, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashashriya, Jnana Vairagayos Shaiva, Channam Bhaga Itingana. Right? So he has got Aishwarya, the wealth, the greatest, richest person, and then Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, like, no, he has got the greatest strength. Yashasha, Yasha means like the fame, he's the most famous person. Shriya, it is the beauty. And then Jnana is the knowledge, and Vairagya is the renunciation. So all these six things he has in full. Whatever anybody may have these things, it is only a portion that Krishna has given it to them. Now, if somebody is knowledgeable, it's only a portion of Krishna's knowledge Krishna has given it to them. And they are so attractive, then how much Krishna will be more attractive? Right? So it is not that we should just get attracted to some dead stone or something like that. We have the most attractive Rasaraj, the reservoir of all pleasure, Krishna. Okay. The servant of king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king, and so eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, and eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman or eternity or imperishability is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in devotional service. The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has desire to lord it over material world, and due to this he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in different modes of material nature, that is, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desires to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service begins with hearing, chanting, remembering the prescribed, that is the prescribed 9 methods of realizing the devotional service, right? So the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam should be practiced in association with devotees. So we are trying to do this in the afternoon sessions, like we are trying to discuss about Krishna, discuss about Bhagavad Gita, and an association of devotees. So it's very, very powerful. It can give a very, very strong impression in our system that we want to somehow or other attend that lotus feet of the Lord. And then in this process, like knowingly or unknowingly, we are out of the three modes of material nature. So three modes of material nature cannot touch, when we are without any motivation, simply gather to glorify Krishna, right? Okay, gradually by such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord had his transcendental pastimes, and read of different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearance and disappearance of Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in Brahma Jyoti or different varieties of Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. Right? So in this way, like Prabhupada is giving many, many practical things in this purport. Like just hearing, chanting, remembering, starting from there. So he's telling that being in the association of devotees, and then in association of devotees, when we hear, our Krishna consciousness becomes very, very solid, and it removes the root of our problem that is trying to dominate and trying to control this material nature. That will just be removed, and what will remain is a desire to serve the Lord in a favorable way, right? And for this, we have to do the sadhana practice, and sadhana practice includes, there are so many things which are mentioned. One should always engage in the service. One should eat only those things which are offered to the Lord. Only prasad we should eat and nothing else. And we should smell the flowers that are offered to the feet of the Lord, right? So in this way, we can have the, we can have the exposure. So as we were discussing, some time back, is that Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayor Vacham Shivai Kunta Gunanu Varnane Karo Hare Mandira Marjanadishu. So all those things, Prabhupada, most of the things he is mentioning here. So like this, many, many practical shlokas are there, which we should memorize and remember, and we should keep it as a checklist. Did I remember the Lord today? Did I clean, his temple? Did I offer some flowers and smell those flowers? Did I offer some tulsi to the lotus feet of the Lord? And later I took that tulsi and I honored that tulsi, right? So these are all very powerful. So devotional service, bhakti is not some rocket jumping or some some big tasks. So sometimes people think that no, we have to do something big to attain the Lord. Actually, no, we have to do something very simple but with lot of love and devotion, right? So everything that is mentioned here in this few examples, no, honoring Prasadam, or like smelling the flowers, or reading about him and observing fast on the Ekadashi and things like that, it's not at all difficult. It's the most simplest thing, and even the simplest villagers, no, they can do these things, right? And that is a speciality of bhakti, and the real speciality of bhakti, or real crux, is that we should be having the loving sentiments towards the Lord, and not just mechanical process, right? So we're not going to do something really skyrocketing and things like that, something big. So we are going to do something simple, but the real big thing is what we are trying to offer is our love and devotion to the Lord, and we should really pray for that. And more and more we pray, and we try to please the Lord in this way, we will become very, very dear to the Lord, right? So thank you all very much for joining, and we will start the 15th chapter tomorrow. And it is going to become more and more interesting when when we are nearing towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So then after that we will start our Bhagavatam reading again, right? So it is our main purpose of reading is to become intense in our devotional service. We should become very intensely attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, and we should have die-hard goal that come what may, like I have to attain the goal, right? So it is not some casual thing that we are trying to do. It's very, very serious business that we are trying to do. We want to attain the lotus feet of the Lord at any cost, right? So thank you all very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.